Hi, today we're going to discuss chapter 9 from our textbook. The chapter is about structuring and outlining your speech. This is more of a set of practical advice, so I will not be spending too much time on this, but instead I'll just go over a couple of initial things and ask you to read the rest from your textbook. So, what are some of the principles of a well-structured speech? Good speeches are simple, they're well designed, well ordered, and balanced. When you're reading a book, you want to know what follows from A to B to C, how the narrative got from point A to point B. It's like a journey. When you're making a speech, it's a different kind of journey because it is happening in time. It is verbal, it's an oral journey. So your book reader can go back and forth if they forgot something, especially when you're looking at things online. You can go back and forth. You're reading a newspaper, you can go even up and down and turn the page. In a speech, there is no going back. So the order needs to be very simple. The speech needs to flow very well. It needs to be well organized and well balanced for speed, for pace, for volume, for pitch, everything. Those fundamental steps are important to keep in mind. So, how do you achieve simplicity? Simplicity in your speech is achieved when you do limit the number of main ideas, use very direct and precise, concise wording. Repeat your key points a couple of times for emphasis. Limit the number of main points. Simplify the main points and boil them down to one idea, one very easy to grasp idea. Not to speak in sound bites like politicians do, but speak like a teacher who wants the student to take away something that is really essential. For example, here are some ideas that you can try to convey. If you're researching and developing a speech in favor of a welfare program, here are some of the ideas you can come up with. For instance, we have too many welfare programs. Most of them are underfunded. Some are wasteful. Some programs duplicate coverage. People who genuinely need help are sometimes denied. Recipients have very little input as to what they need, and traditional welfare programs can foster a culture of dependence and sometimes even cheating. Each of those points can be developed, that can be important. However, when they're presented in a random fashion, people will have a hard time following. So if you prioritize your points and support every point with facts, research, you may begin to create a simple train of thought, something like this in your textbook. The specific purpose is to persuade the audience that our current approach to welfare needs to be revised. Your thesis statement. Our approach to welfare does not work. I would say that this is a grim statement. To say that it doesn't work is not enough. I would rather hear about something that can be done. The first main point, it's inadequate. Existing programs are not sufficiently funded, and B, people who genuinely need our help, they're usually left out. The second main point with its subpoints. First main point, it doesn't work because it's inefficient. Subpoints. There are too many duplicates and too much money is wasted. Third point, it doesn't work because it is insensitive. Subpoints. A, creates dependency. B, robs recipients of self-respect. And C, recipients have very little input. So these are some of the structural parts that you can develop and fill with words in order to make them into a speech. This is easy to follow, and when you have the logic boiled down, then you can start building the speech itself. Subpoints can be organized as secondary ideas flowing from the from the main points. Overlapping ideas can be combined together. So your purpose is to state the main points pretty clearly, saying something like, our approach to welfare does not work because it's inadequate. People who genuinely need help are left out. These are very easy, straightforward statements, and the guideline for simplicity is repetition. So you can repeat the key points in order to hammer them into the minds and the hearing of the listeners. Our approach to welfare doesn't work. It doesn't work because, and then you bring up all the reasons why you feel it doesn't work. So a parallel construction means repeating much of the wording of main points while emphasizing their different focal points, emphasizing that these are the main points. That's parallel construction. To the eye, this repetition may look clumsy and boring, but to the ear, it seems more acceptable, more absorbable. Repetition is a standard form of speech making. Speakers preview their messages, they hammer them in during the body of the speech, and they review them in the conclusion. The order of a speech requires a clear, consistent pattern from beginning to an end, from point A to point B. As the old saying goes, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. Second, the main point within the body of the speech adheres to a clear design scheme that makes your statements very obvious. The design can be categorical, problem solving, a narrative, as we will discuss later in this part of our text. Introductions are common. It is good to start with an introduction, but you can actually begin with an anecdote. Your main work is in the body of the speech because whatever you present, illustrate, substantiate within your message, that is the main work that you have to do. Once you have structured that body, you can prepare your intro and outro, your conclusion, to custom tailor it for the body of the message. Balance means the major part of your speech should receive appropriate development. Nothing can be too short, too long, too tedious, or too brief, sketchy. For different speaking occasions, and certainly for classroom speeches, you will be given a time requirement. As we said, let's begin with 5 minutes. You don't really want to wrap up too quickly. You don't want to be rushed into ending your speech. So pace yourself properly and balance the material to make sure you give enough time for each part of your speech. The body is the longest part. That's where you develop your ideas. Balance the development of each main point. Give enough time for each point and then its subpoints. When you're doing a short presentation, your intro and conclusion should be brief and approximately the same, or one and the same between the intro and the conclusion.